Hello people, the unpleasant subject which we need to make the government authorities aware of, to where the loopholes are, and to stamp this out, to stop these unscrupulous, unethical operators out there. We have far too many loopholes. So to give you an overview, a lot of people obviously not from the sector don't know how it works. If you're an outsider or a public person, you wouldn't know how the care sector works and what your carers are supposed to have. So how it works is, obviously, the person has the right to work here if they're foreign carers. So like anywhere, they're supposed to have a national insurance number or have the right to work in the UK, number one, before you can employ them in any form. Secondly, they are supposed to do this job as a carer, you're working with vulnerable, ill, elderly, supposed to have a DBS. So they require, if you employ them, to check that they're legally right to work here. You will need to check that they're a DBS. So if they've never done this before, they join, they cannot do a DBS themselves, so they do it through an agency or another body that will apply for a DBS, debarring certificate, to make sure they have no criminal record. They're allowed to work with the vulnerable. Then, I can only say from what I know, but this is how it works here. In order to start working as a carer, they're called induction training, which is a very basic training in order for them to start working in the job. So the carer will get you. Now this varies, which is interesting. There's no set, I don't know what the minimum set standard is as far as Care Quality Commission. There's certain subjects they cover. They all cover very, very basic. Couple of basic videos they do, which is food safety, fire, that sort of thing. They're very, very basics. Now this varies statistically and per agency. There's a huge amount, as I say. It's a huge sector now and it's gone under the radar. There's a huge amount of variant people and agencies operating out there. So what they do, if now they want to start a person as a carer, whether they're an ex-nurse, whether it's irrelevant, they haven't worked as a carer before, your first time working as a carer, you could be an ex-teacher. You will come in, they will check supposedly that you have the right to work here. They will then make sure they will do a DBS while you're getting your induction training. Now this induction training allows you to immediately start working once you've completed it. It varies. There are agencies out there that are offering 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and there are some that do they cover a lot more intense training, that cover 2 weeks of training, depending on the agency basically that employs these people. So there's a huge variant. There's no set sort of bar that they cover in order to allow them to become carers. So they all go through that. They'll get their training if they've never done it, newbies, and do induction training, and then they're immediately sent to someone's home to care for them. Now, obviously, if they haven't got any NQ, their care certificate yet, purely have not done care, they will then go normally, supposed to be, because they haven't got the experience and they haven't finished their care certificate yet. They should normally just be doing companionship, mild dementia, something that's not intense. The training is not, these basic short few days training does not go into how to deal with people with dementia. You get an idea what dementia is, what the client's going to do, but not how you handle it, there's not enough done on dementia, put it that way, and on induction training. So the carer goes off. Then, in order for them to complete their care certificate, these people are immediately placed in work, because remember, if they don't work, they don't get paid, nor does the agency. So a lot of the time, as I say, they're paying for their training, or the training is deducted from their salary. Once they start working, it comes off their salary, this induction training that they receive. They're then placed. They're then signed on, hopefully. I can't guarantee how often and when this happens, to do their care certificate, to complete the care certificate, which is 15 or so modules they have to complete in order to qualify for a care certificate. But they're already working. So this is done while they are in the process or on the job. They have to do it. And as we say, if you're looking according to the hours they're working, it's going to take a very long time for you to do your care certificate. Because if you're working 12, according to them, 13 hours on duty or so a day, You're getting it, if you're lucky, as we know according to the survey, where they're not always getting. About 50% are getting, their 2-hour break. I think it's lower than that a day. These modules take about 2 hours, some are longer, just to complete one module. So now the carer is already immediately placed into a placement as soon as she's finished her induction training. Obviously, there's money involved. The carer is sent to a client's house, and she's supposed to now try in her own time. So in her so-called downtime, she's supposed to be doing that. And if you have a 2-hour break, you just have enough time to finish some of these modules. So it's very difficult. They're not given time off to do their training, to complete their training or their care certificate, because they're supposed to be working and doing it. So they either have to do it in their leave, do it on their day off or their time off. It can take quite a while depending on where they're placed initially. Some are placed in jobs way above what they can cope. If they've never experienced dementia and Alzheimer's, they really don't know how to respond, how to deal with a person. It is difficult. It needs to be more done. There's definitely a lot more needs to be focused on that, how to interact, how to de-escalate, how to respond and cope with a person with dementia. They know what they're supposed to do as far as they can't do, care standard act, how to treat the person, yes. So that's basically the rundown of how it works. Off they go. They get their care certificate. So once you've got your care certificate, you're fully qualified. Now, there are agencies out there that don't want to, obviously money, time, they don't want to bother with the training. So they seek out people that have already done the induction training and got, say, 6 months experience. They'll take them on. Then there are agencies that will seek out people that have completed their care certificate. So they all want, obviously they have to have a DBS. Hopefully we're checking this, that we do check, the national insurance number or UTR if they're self-employed, that they have a UTR number. And then they have that. So you've got all kinds of players out there, players that are looking for purely self-employed people that have UTRs or that have got their care certificate, that have got X amount experience. I think it also depends on the client. Remember, they advertise, when they need a carer, they advertise once they have a client for a carer for that position. So whether it's palliative care, end of life, Alzheimer's, that's the requirement you're going to need. You're going to want a care certificate, or you're going to want 6 months, 2 years experience, or experience with dementia, or experience with end of life. So that's how it is. There are carers out there working that have done NQs. So some will have NQ levels. Some agencies prefer, they'll choose people with NQ levels. But basically you need your care certificate. But you can work, they start working before they have this received. So it's on-the-job learning. And if it's a companionship and mild dementia, it's sufficient to do that. So that's how they're operating. A lot of people take on, they don't offer the training. They purely induction, as I say, agencies. They take on people who already have completed that through other agencies, and it's easy. They just find someone great, slot them straight into a job. They don't have to do the training first. So that's, and as I've gone before, there's all kinds of people, one-man bands, some unregistered, under the radar, illegally, doing a business, all kinds. There's corporations out there. But let's get down to, this video is going to cover exploitation, human slavery. Unfortunately, this is the ugly part of what's going out of there. We have some very unscrupulous people capitalizing on this need and this growing industry. I got, it was more than a year ago, 1 or 2 people referred to me via carers asking for help. I've heard some frightening stories. We uncovered, listening to this, basically a form of modern day slavery going on in the care sector. And surprising to me is that going onto the Care Quality Commission's website, a lot of these agencies who were doing these bad practices have good ratings. So as far as Care Quality Commission goes, whatever care they're providing, they have good ratings. But they are basically practicing modern-day slavery and exploitation of the staff, unbeknown to anybody. Because as I've explained in previous videos, if it's a staff problem or a labour issue, the Care Quality Commission is not interested. If they phone and say, my agency's not doing this, they're not paying me, I'm not getting paid for my breaks, then they tell them, well, sorry, it's nothing to do with us, phone ACAS or phone whatever. Anyway, it came to my attention, and a few of them came forward, that there's a foreign company. They're operating in more than one country, but they moved into the UK. They were operating in other countries before. So they set up, they obviously realized this is lucrative in the UK as well to start business. They set up a company here, obviously teamed with people here to do it. Formed a company in the care sector, offering carers. I can't vouch, I don't know the company, so I'm not sure if they're supplying carers to care homes, I presume. I haven't gone into it. And live-in carers. What they're doing, and I heard the entire stories, I saw the proof, the facts, from these poor girls, frightening. They are recruiting these girls in their country. They have offices all over. It's not a small company, not a small at all. And they're operating in this sort of out of the radar. Where you've got domestic workers and live-in carers, perfect under the radar business, because you've got people, it's easy to exploit those people. And we have the EU, so they're members of the EU, so coming here, the right to work here is not a problem. So it's very easy. It's a problem with human trafficking when you've got this problem where you've got open borders, people allowed to come in. So no one's going to raise a flag if they're here. You wouldn't have a clue what they're doing here. They have offices all over this country, and they are recruiting people. They're advertising a good wage for their standard in that country's economy, or especially with exchange rate. So they're offering them, which is not a fantastic wage, but a good wage according to their country. They're getting these girls signed up there. So the girls are seeing these adverts and told they can get a nice job in the UK, and they will sort everything out. They go to the office. They're given a contract. So they signed up before they fly here and everything's done. They sign them up to a contract. It's in their language and in English. But being foreigners, they haven't a clue about our laws, our standards, our minimum wage, what's legal here. They're going to be working in our country. So they sign this up and telling them they will be self-employed. They're also asked to sign the fact that they will give the company permission to do their invoices, to provide the invoice to the client. So this company is giving the invoices on behalf of the carer, who's self-employed, to the client. The client is paying that company, and that company is then taking their money off and paying the carers. But unbeknownst to this person sitting in this country, is told, we'll sort everything out for you. You get the training, find you the job, and off you go. And the contract says that you shouldn't work more than a 40-hour working week, and that you're responsible for paying HMRC, your own, taxes and everything else. So the carers get stuck on a plane, and they come over here to this company. They get put through the induction training, which, as I explained, a couple of days they do training, and they get sent off to work under this company as a so-called self-employed person, to whether it's a care home, whether it's a client's house. A lot of these carers are working, the hours now, according to my survey. So depending on the client, a lot of them have two people. They're caring for couples. Some might get a good job and do, because depending on the client and the condition, do a 10-hour day, do an 8-hour day, or very seldom, but basically say working 10 hours. So getting a 2-hour break. They are able to get breaks, but there are a lot of them that are not. So they've signed this contract. This contract also says if they have any disputes, labor dispute, or don't like it, they signed up to 6 months as well, and they're penalized. So if they assume now they're going to be working, you're going to get a decent pay, not realizing it's completely below minimum wage here, that there's no ways in God's earth they're going to be able to work those hours. It says you shouldn't work more than a 40-hour week, which is impossible, because as we know, it's a 0 hour, it's a variable hour job. You're signing away your rights to work any hours, you can't. They're not told, and they're not given the option or told to open a bank account here, to register for the UTR. So what a self-employed person is here, what you need to do to go on to our HMRC to register for UTR. Some of them don't even have bank accounts here. So they arrive here, get this training, get in someone's house. They are now paid directly from the agency into their accounts. Some of them are being paid. They don't have bank accounts here. because they haven't registered with UTR, they haven't done any of this. They've got their DBS, got their training, and off the radar, they're in someone's house. So HMRC doesn't even know these people are working here. If they have a dispute, they need to take it at their cost. If now they want to break the contract, they signed a 6-month contract. If they don't like anything, there's any dispute, they, according to the contract they've signed before they arrive here, have to take up the dispute in that country. Obviously, they've got more political power and maneuverage. So, and they will pay the costs. So if they decide now to sue the company because they're not being paid or any dispute, labor dispute, it, according to their contract, has to be done in their country. So these poor carers get stuck here, start getting, networking with other people that have now already were entrapped possibly by this company and got out of it, did their 6 months and got out of it. Telling them, they realize that they're earning way below minimum wage. These girls are being paid. Now, this is what the government needs to stamp out. We know under a variable hour contract, you cannot have a set wages because your hours are not set. So this is one thing we have to do in order to stop this exploitation, also to make it affordable for our clients as well. We need to get rid of this. This job is not a set hour job. It's not an office job, an 8 to 5, where you can offer 23,000 a year annual salaries. It's annual salaries and set salaries are worked on set times, set hours, set jobs. This is not. It's a 7-day week. Depending on the clients, I might work 6 days and get a day off if there's a situation. But the hours are never set. It's a variable hour, 0-hour contracts they're working on. They're signing away because you have to work more than the normal hours. But we are paying them in this industry set amount. Their salary is set. So of course, same thing with these girls. They are earning or pay anything around between 280, 250 to about 280 a week. So end of the day, they are earning a month 1,000 or so pounds. Completely, no one knows they exist. A lot of these girls didn't open bank accounts here, so they have a choice as well. So they are being paid in their own country. Whether the company is paying them from their side, I don't presume they won't be wiring it from United Kingdom to their bank accounts. They'll be obviously paying them out of their bank accounts that they have in that country. So they're earning way below minimum wage because they're working 10 hours minimum a day, 7 days a week, and you are being paid £280. Not paid for breaks, not told to pay or even sign up for, because they're self-employed supposedly. So they weren't aware, because they're not told, they're not shown where to, they're not given the guidance, they're not helped to. You need now as a self-employed person to go and sign up for a UTR number, to contact HMRC, to get this. Nothing. They basically, and their contract said, well, we're not responsible, you must pay taxes, you must do all this, but they're not told how, when, what they're supposed to do. They don't know the legal parameters yet. So they're now in a few months stuck in this job and realize, my goodness, we are being paid way below minimum wage in this country. But they've signed a 6-month contract, which penalizes them if they will cancel it. They're fined if they cancel the contract. They're told if there's any dispute, they have to then settle it in that country and pay for the court costs or the charges for the tribunal. And now feel entrapped because if they feel they report the company, now they realize, oh my gosh, we've broken the law because we didn't pay tax. We didn't know we're supposed to pay tax. We weren't, told where to sign on. Horrendous, yes. Yet this is going under the radar, as I say, because we don't have an oversight for the entire sector. So as far as Care Quality Commission goes, and there's more than one agency doing all kinds of things, and it's not small, these are not a small company, they're able then, they saw the gap here, because of all the other agencies obviously paying slightly higher, still set rates, still below minimum wage according to the hours, because we cannot pay people set wages when there are no set hours in the industry at all. That is one thing we have to stamp out immediately. Minimum wage and hourly rate and paid for the hours. There have to be time sheets, whether they use an app to log it but actually run a payroll, do their job properly, and give them a proper pay slip. So these poor girls discovered, well, they're being paid straight into their bank accounts into foreign countries, not paid taxes here, oh my goodness, and then trapped in a situation. They're trapped into this contract. So HMRC, I haven't a clue how much they lost out, how long this has been going on for, and how big. We're losing all of these foreign workers coming here, working in our country, not paying taxes, not registered, not even on the radar. No one knows they exist. They haven't got a bank account and address here. Some did open bank accounts, used that agency's address to open a bank account here for whatever reasons they wanted to. Of course, when they realize now that they are now in trouble or broken the law because they didn't pay taxes, they're frightened to come forward. They're frightened of retribution. They're frightened of... So yes, people are frightened. This is what modern day slavery is about. It's entrapment. People, you will find them it's very difficult for them to come forward because they are frightened. They didn't realize they were doing anything wrong. They didn't know. And they get very angry when they realize they're being absolutely exploited. When this is not what's going on. All the agencies are paying double that. Or 500 or 550. There's new ones I see opening up, offering carers as sort of almost domestic workers now. Yes, it's from our human trafficking and modern day labor, gang and slave labor abuse authority. Unfortunately, I thought they could actually report it there, but they don't cover the sector. They cover only, if I remember, I did inquire actually to find out, well, how come this is happening? It's a very easy, anything to do with housekeeping, something like this is very easy for these type of illegal people or human traffickers or smugglers to get into, especially if we've got, as I say, open borders, and it's not going to raise a red flag, people being in the country that have the right to be here. I found out that they don't cover the sector. They cover fisheries, agriculture, I think, and construction. So I really think as far as our labor, gang labor abuse part, I'm sure, I know we're all suffering and underfunded, need to look at taking this under their wing. We need to look at incorporating this into oversight. There is somewhere where these people can, report to, besides HMRC now. A lot of them, yes, unfortunately, do their 6-month contract and never come back here. They now, just when they realize they're trapped, they have to do their 6 months. They finish, and are gone. So the cycle keeps carrying on. They keep entrapping people. They keep coming over here. They don't talk out. So there's one. As I say, number one, we've got to cut this out. We have to stop it. Our government has this rule and regulation. We had this change because of the exploitation and abuse of 0-hour contracts, that all their hours are supposed to be on their payslip. This does not happen at all. Their payslips are dictated and run by the agencies, and the agencies are putting whatever hours they want on there. And please, if you don't believe me, go around to these agencies, big ones, some of the big operators. Go around and go look at their books. Go pull up all their payslips for the last year or two and have a look. You will see set payments, set hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, 9 hours, every single month they're being paid this. Occasionally, someone's lucky. Some will try and request fight the agency for their time off or for those extra hours. A lot of the time they are told it was downtime, which you weren't really working because the client was probably sleeping. The client takes a nap, or or you weren't cleaning the house. They call it downtime, or they try and say it's not working. You weren't actually working because you weren't physically cleaning, or you weren't physically... They're on call. They're on duty. They cannot predict when they're going to be busy, when the client's going... If the client does nap, when the client's going to wake up. If they leave the client can fall. So they're on duty, on call. They're trying to wangle out. That's one of the ways they're using it. They are telling them, or they're saying it's unmanned, unmonitored hours, which is absolutely no excuse in this day and age, because we have timesheets. They can use apps. There are apps out there that cover businesses, free apps, as I say, that they can log in. Even some of the agencies use apps for their staff, where they, instead of now paper notes, where they take notes, at medicine, gave Mrs. So-and-so medicine at 10 o'clock, had her breakfast, she took a nap, they fill in their duties, or they have to keep records of their care. daily records. Some of them have apps where they actually have to do it online. So these are free apps. There's no excuse. If they want to say, well, they're not, they can get the client to sign, but they're trying to use this downtime. Some of them use it as a downtime, well, you're not working because we're not physically, they're on call. Legally, look under our definition of what on call is. The person is not in their own home, doing what they want in their own time when they want. They're in that client's house all the time, except when they knock off and go to sleep. As I say, as I've explained, a lot of them are woken up. That's not counted either. They're on call at the client's beck and call. If the client now decides to have a nap after lunch and have a sleep, normally the carer then actually is doing the ironing or doing the cleaning or washing the dishes after lunch. Sometimes the carer gets downtime. If she's managed to finish for the day and hasn't got any housework, done the housework, the client is napping or watching television, the carer has downtime. She's either going to take her break if she's able to leave that client and go. That's when she takes her 2-hour break then, during that downtime, or she has to stay there and wait for the client, watch TV with the client, play bridge, play chess if the client's napping, because if the client wakes up now and might want a hot chocolate, a tea, need the toilet, not feel well, and if you leave them and they try and do it themselves, they can fall. So even sometimes when the carers are on break in the client's house because they're not able to go out or the weather's bad or whatever the story is, if they're on their break, they have the 1 ear open and they can be called and interrupted. You can't ignore the person. If you know they are at risk and now you're on your break and the client wakes up and starts walking, you know they're going to fall. You have to. Your conscience, it is just good care, that you will go and assist that person. So yes, these are some of the, which is frightening. I did encourage, I think some of these carers have reported this company to HMRC, supposed to be under investigation. And I presume with all the proof provided, hopefully that will be sorted out. But the average person on the street, the average man in the average care home or the client taking these carers on would have no idea that this company, because if they go look on the Care Quality Commission's website, they've got good ratings. That company has a good rating with the Care Quality Commission. They have outstanding or good ratings, some of these agencies. The client is unaware of what this poor carer is subject to in their house, that their carers are subject to not being paid, denied, when they do try and question, well, I work more than this, why am I only getting paid 9 hours? No, well, you weren't actually working. It was downtime or it's unmanned. So for us, the only way we're going to stop this actual exploitation and abuse, which is going on in a horrendous scale here, on a mass scale. We're talking about most of them, most of these agencies. I would say 90, I haven't done, I'm not doing the investigation, but yes, I listen to them all the time, and I see all the people's comments, and I got to know huge majority of these agencies. We're talking about the main big ones especially. This is what they're doing. This is exactly how they're operating. Or as I say, they're broken down. There's one particular company that breaks it down. So the carer is given a contract and told, your day is basically an 8-hour day. That's it. We know it's not. It's not in this industry. It's definitely not. They're also signing the so-called 0-hour contract. I love this. We're signing away our rights to, set hours or whatever. But then you're given a contract to say that, of course, all these new people don't know this. A lot of them are foreigners. When you start off here and you get recruited by these people, you haven't a clue that this is not the law, that this is not how it works, what a 0-hour contract is, what you're right, nothing. So now they've signed these contracts and they're trapped to them. And if, when they found out they've been exploited or stuck in a very bad situation, the contracts are very obviously one-sided, that the carer needs to give enough time, notice, if she wants to leave. Some of them 2 weeks, month, a lot of them where the agency will give the carer no notice or 1 week notice if they want to get rid of them. The carers have to give the agency a lot longer, 1 month notice. If these carers now are trapped and found, well, we're not being paid and they're being exploited or put in a bad situation and the agency will not help them or give them relief, they want to leave. If they walk out, so you trapping someone, without giving that month notice, they will not get paid. It's because they'll take them on. because you're supposed to give a month's notice. So their last paycheck comes, and if they have now not worked that whole notice or given them the time, they will not be paid for this. It's deducted. So there's a huge amount of exploitation. If we can get the sector, and this is not hard to do legally, shouldn't be going on in any sector, that if you are working unmanned hours, unmanned, unmanaged, what do you want to call, 0 hours contracts, or under those conditions where there are no set working hours, it should be completely illegal, and I'm sure it is, but it's not happening. We need to make it law, because it's not happening, where you cannot pay someone a set salary, because you are paying them for 8 hours when effectively they're working 12, 13 hours every day. Some days I might work 8, wonderful, but the days, most of them, they're working a 10 hour. Tomorrow I'm working 14 hours. They're not being paid for this. And their contracts are extremely one-sided, manipulated. As you say, they can't go without notice. Can't just leave the person. And then they're not being paid, or they're being penalized, they're being fined. If they leave, they're not giving this. There's an enormous amount of problems, but this is a serious problem. We need to. The Care Quality Commission is not, this is a sector they don't police or manage or oversee at all. They're not aware that this is going on under their noses, in their watch, on companies that are members and registered with the Care Quality Commission. And where a lot of carers have a phone, plenty of carers have phone, but they're well aware. A lot of carers have phone many times. They're well aware what's going on. They just say, well, sorry, phone ACAS, or you need to take them to the tribunal, or speak to citizens' advice. And we have to have a body that really understands the sector, that oversees the whole sector, that knows what's going on. You can't only police or regulate or monitor one side of the business. And this is what's making it so unaffordable. Even if our clients, as I say, you get rid of the agency and hire the carers directly, they paid carers for every hour they work, just minimum wage. The carers would be happy, earning more money than they are now earning. They're earning a proper, decent salary. They're actually being paid. It's illegal. I don't think anyone would dispute the fact that you can't pay someone for all the hours they work. You can't work. Someone's working for a full day. You can't pay them for a half day. I mean, you just wouldn't consider that. In normal business, you will not consider not paying someone. But this is what we're doing. This is happening here, and it's going on happily. It's sanctioned. I haven't seen the government step in. I haven't seen anyone question it. I haven't seen the laws change. I haven't seen it stopped. We've got a sector which, as I say, it's just half regulated. Some people are members of Care Quality Commission, some aren't, but they're not overseeing the whole sector. No one is doing this. It's a big problem. It's horrendous what is going on with these carers. And as I say, they can't. If the carer starts complaining about the fact that she's not getting her money, and my hours are too long, I'm not being paid for my breaks, they will not find other clients, or they